There's a moment in life that hits harder than any punch, and it's the moment you realize no one is coming to save you. It's not a movie where the hero bursts through the door at the last second. It's not a fairy tale where the mentor shows up right when you're at your lowest. It's just you and the silence, and that silence is deafening, because it's the first time you really feel the weight of your own life pressing down on your chest. People talk about loneliness like it's just being without company. No, loneliness is walking through the fire knowing there's no hand to hold. It's looking around for answers and seeing nothing but closed doors. And here's the harsh truth. Most people will avoid you when you're at your lowest. Not because they're cruel, but because pain scares them. Struggle makes them uncomfortable. They don't know how to handle someone who's drowning, so they stand on the shore, watching, telling themselves you'll figure it out. And at first, that realization burns. You feel betrayed. You start counting all the people you've helped, all the times you've been there, and you ask, where are they now? But then, if you let it, something shifts. You stop waiting. You stop hoping for the knock on the door. You stop expecting the phone to ring, and you start moving, because the moment you accept that you're alone is the moment you stop outsourcing your survival. You take full ownership. You start looking at your hands differently, not as empty but as tools. You start seeing your mind not as a victim of circumstances, but as a weapon you've been underestimating. The absence of help becomes the presence of power. It's strange, when you have no safety net, you think you'll fall. But what actually happens is you learn to walk the tightrope like your life depends on it. You stop playing small because small doesn't keep you alive anymore. You start taking risks you never thought you could. Not because you're reckless, but because you've finally realized there's no plan B. And the truth is, most people never get here. Most people never truly feel what it's like to be stripped of support. They always have someone to call, somewhere to fall back to. And while that sounds comfortable, it's comfort that keeps them from growing teeth. You didn't have that, and that's why you will rise above them. Because when you've had to lift yourself out of the mud with nothing but your own will, you become someone who can't be broken by the world's storms. But here's the real twist. Once you stop looking for help, you realize you don't even need hope in the way you used to think of it. Hope becomes something different. It's no longer this desperate wish for rescue. It becomes belief. Belief in your own capacity to build, to adapt, to endure. And I'll tell you this, there's a strange kind of freedom in knowing no one's coming. You stop performing for approval. You stop living for validation. You stop asking for permission to live the life you want. You just go. You start putting one foot in front of the other every single day until one day you turn around and realize the distance you've traveled is something the old you wouldn't even believe. The reality of being alone isn't a tragedy. It's a beginning. It's the first time you meet the version of yourself that was always there, buried under the noise, waiting for the silence to bring it out. And once you meet that version of yourself, you'll never go back. When hope dies, something inside you changes. And I don't mean the poetic kind of hope you see in inspirational quotes. I'm talking about that last little voice inside that says, maybe things will just work themselves out. When that voice goes quiet, you're left with nothing but the raw reality of where you are. It's cold. It's sharp, and it cuts away every illusion you've been holding onto. At first, it feels like you've been robbed. Like the last bit of light has been taken from you. But here's the part no one talks about. Hopelessness can be a gift if you let it. Because when you have nothing left to hope for, you stop waiting. You stop postponing your life for someday. You stop thinking about how it should be, and you start dealing with how it is. Hope, in its soft form, can actually keep you stuck. It's like sitting at a train station for years, waiting for a train that's never coming. You tell yourself, maybe tomorrow. You tell yourself, maybe someone will come through. And in the meantime, your life is slipping away, one day at a time. But when hopelessness finally hits you, you get up from that bench. You stop waiting for a train, and you start building the road yourself. There's a kind of clarity that only comes when you've stopped believing in miracles and started believing in your own hands. When the dream of rescue dies, you replace it with the plan of action. And that shift, that's when you start becoming unstoppable. Because you're no longer chasing something that might never happen. You're creating something that will happen, because you're the one in control of it. People fear hopelessness because they think it's the end. But for some of us, it's the beginning of the real story. It strips you down until there's nothing left but truth. And truth is powerful. Truth tells you exactly how bad it is, how far you've fallen, how much it's going to take to climb out. And then it asks you the question, are you going to move or not? And in that moment, the choice becomes brutally simple. Sit in the dark or move through it. Stay still or start crawling. You stop obsessing over the size of the mountain and start focusing on the first step. And once you take that first step, the next one doesn't seem so impossible. The funny thing is, once you start moving without hope, you start building something stronger than hope. You start building certainty, not certainty that it will be easy, not certainty that you'll win every battle, but certainty that no matter what comes, you'll keep going. And that kind of certainty, it's worth more than all the fragile hope in the world. You begin to realize that you don't need the light at the end of the tunnel to move forward. You can walk in the dark. You can feel your way forward, 1 inch at a time, until you break through to the other side. And when you do, you don't thank luck or fate or some miracle. You thank the version of yourself who refused to stop moving when everything inside you said there was no point. Hopelessness taught you that the point isn't waiting for better days. The point is creating them. And once you understand that, you stop fearing the dark. You stop fearing the unknown. You stop needing the reassurance of a happy ending before you take action. Because you've learned something the rest of the world hasn't, you don't need hope to win. You just need the will to keep moving when it feels like there's nothing worth moving for. And once you master that, nothing can hold you back. When you have nothing, no support, no comfort, no guiding hand, something strange begins to happen. The limits you thought were permanent start to shift. At first, it's not because you feel strong. In fact, you feel exhausted, even broken. But there's a point where you realize that no one is coming to save you. And in that moment, the boundaries you've been taught your whole life begin to dissolve. We're told, from the time we're children, what's possible and what isn't. People hand us their version of reality as if it's a gift, when in truth, it's often a cage. You can't do that. That's not realistic. People like us don't get opportunities like that. And when you're in a vulnerable place, those words don't just land. They take root. They grow into invisible fences that shape every step you take. But when the ground beneath you collapses, when life leaves you with no choice but to move forward, you start to see those fences for what they are. Lies dressed as wisdom. And here's the thing, you can break them, not all at once, not with one heroic moment, but piece by piece, decision by decision, step by painful step. The first time you step beyond what you thought you could do, it's terrifying. Your mind is screaming for you to retreat. Every ounce of conditioning you've absorbed tells you to stay where it's safe, to go back to the small version of yourself. But if you resist that pull, something incredible happens. You survive. And when you survive, you start to wonder what else was a lie. You realize that the limit wasn't the problem. It was your belief in it. The fear wasn't the enemy. It was your surrender to it. The world didn't chain you. You chained yourself by believing other people's opinions about who you are and what you could be. This is the moment where transformation starts. You stop asking, "What am I allowed to do?" and start asking, "What am I capable of?" You stop trying to fit into the boundaries other people created and start drawing your own map. And yes, it's lonely at first. Because the second you begin to push beyond those invisible walls, you're going to leave people behind. Some will cheer you on, but others they'll try to pull you back. Not because they hate you, but because your courage exposes their fear. Your growth reminds them of the risks they're unwilling to take. You can't let that stop you. You can't slow down for someone who refuses to move. You've got to remember that this is your fight, your life, your moment. And the truth is, the further you go beyond what you thought was possible, the more you'll discover that limits are nothing but suggestions, ones you don't have to take. The beautiful, brutal part is that there's no finish line. The deeper you push, the more you see how much further you can go. You're not just breaking limits. You're building a new definition of yourself, one that's not defined by your past, your circumstances, or anyone else's rules. And here's the truth you need to carry with you. Nobody gets to tell you how far you can go. Nobody. That decision belongs to you, and only you. So if you've been living inside a box someone else built, smash it. If you've been walking a path someone else designed, step off it. You've already survived without help. You've already walked through hopelessness. Don't stop here. The limits you believe in will shape the life you live. And if you refuse to believe in any, you'll be unstoppable. So keep going, because the only real limit you'll ever face is the one you decide to accept. And you don't have to accept any of them. See, the people who have always had a plan, a fallback, or a cushion often crumble when life flips the table. But if you've spent your entire journey clawing your way out of the dark, you've learned how to pivot without panicking. You've learned to make something out of nothing. You've learned to see opportunities where other people see dead ends. Adaptability isn't just about reacting. It's about transforming. When you stop wishing for the ideal scenario and start working with what's actually in front of you, your mind becomes dangerous, in the best way possible. You stop obsessing over how things should be and start asking, "What can I do with what I have right now?" That's when resourcefulness turns into innovation. That's when your limits start to fade, not because your life got easier, but because your thinking got sharper. And here's the raw truth. When you've been stripped of everything, you stop needing everything. That's when you realize most of the stuff people chase isn't necessary. You start focusing on the essentials, the moves that matter, the actions that produce results, the relationships that actually fuel you instead of drain you. This clarity is a weapon, because while everyone else is distracted by noise, you're locked in on the signal. Life doesn't reward the person with the perfect conditions. It rewards the one who can thrive in chaos. And if you've been forged in chaos, you have an edge that can't be taught. You're not waiting for things to calm down, because you know they never will. You're not waiting for the right time, because you've learned the right time is always now. But there's something even deeper here. When you've adapted so many times, you stop being afraid of change. You stop resisting it. In fact, you start to welcome it. Because you know that change, even when it rips apart your comfort, always brings with it the chance to grow. And when you've been tested enough, you stop clinging to what's familiar just because it's safe. You start chasing what's better because it's necessary. That's when you realize the world can't break you anymore, not because it won't try, but because every time it does, you find a way to rebuild stronger. And the people watching from the outside might call it resilience, grit, determination. but you know the truth. It's survival turned into strategy. It's pain turned into fuel. And maybe the most dangerous thing about someone who's learned to adapt is this: you become unpredictable. You're no longer boxed in by your past, your circumstances, or anyone else's expectations. You can't be cornered because you've learned to turn walls into doors. You can't be trapped because you've stopped looking for the exit and started creating one. So when the world thinks it's shutting you down, it's really just handing you the materials to build something new. And the people who underestimated you will be left wondering how you keep moving forward when you should have been finished a long time ago. The answer is simple. You've become the kind of person who can't be stopped, not because you have everything you need, but because you know how to make something out of anything. And that's a power no one can take from you.